Spare my child! Screamed Cynthia Ann Parker, clutching her daughter as 100 Comanche warriors, adorned in war paint and gripping lances, descended on Fort Parker in 1836. At 9 years old, she was torn from her family, her calico dress replaced by a fringed Comanche tunic. Over 24 years, she became Nadua, a devoted mother of 3, bound to the Comanche's enduring spirit. Yet, in 1860, Texas Rangers ripped her from her adopted kin. How could a woman, shaped by 2 worlds, survive the shattering of her Comanche soul? Cynthia Ann Parker was born on the 28th of October, 1827, in Crawford County, Illinois, to Silas Mercer Parker and Lucinda Parker, a couple of European descent. Their modest log cabin stood amidst the rolling prairies, far from the violent clashes of the frontier. With a population of just 2,774 in Crawford County by 1830, as recorded in census data, the Parkers lived a quiet life, raising their children in a tight-knit community. Historians, such as Margaret Schmidt-Hacker, note that Cynthia's early years were marked by simplicity, her days filled with chores and play under the Illinois sky. Her middle name, originally Anna, shifted to Anne, a change scholars like Joella Powell Exley attribute to clerical errors or family preference, though no definitive record explains why. By the early 1830s, the Parkers joined a wave of 15,000 settlers moving to Texas, drawn by promises of fertile land and opportunity. Census records from 1835 show Texas's population swelling as families sought to escape economic stagnation in the United States. The Parkers, carrying their belongings in ox-drawn wagons, traversed 800 miles to reach north-central Texas. Their journey, fraught with muddy trails and disease, reflected the broader settler ambition to tame a wild land, as described by historian T.R. Fehrenbach. Yet, this ambition came with risks, as Texas was a contested borderland where native tribes fiercely resisted encroachment. Under the leadership of Cynthia's grandfather, John Parker, a 70-year-old veteran ranger, the family built Fort Parker on the Navasota River in present-day Limestone County, Texas. Constructed in 1834, the fort housed 30 families, its 2-foot-high cedar walls enclosing a 4-acre compound, as detailed in archaeological surveys. John, who had fought in the American Revolution, envisioned a safe haven. His weathered hands, gripping a musket, oversaw the fort's defenses, but his confidence in peace was misguided. Historian James W. Parker, his son, later wrote that the fort's 18 armed men were ill-prepared for the scale of native resistance. John Parker's peace treaties with local tribes, like the Wichita, secured temporary calm, but the Comanche, a nation of 20,000 across the southern plains, as estimated by ethnographer Ernest Wallace, rejected such agreements. Clad in buffalo hides and armed with bows, Comanche bands operated independently, their decentralized structure baffling settlers. Historian Pekka Hämäläinen notes that the Comanche's fluid leadership made them unpredictable, rendering John's diplomacy ineffective. By 1836, tensions simmered as settlers encroached on hunting grounds, setting the stage for conflict. On May 19, 1836, a force of 100 to 600 Comanche, Kiowa, and Kichai warriors, their faces painted with red ochre, attacked Fort Parker. Contemporary accounts, like those of survivor Rachel Plummer, describe warriors on horseback, wielding lances and shields. The assault began at dawn, catching the settlers off guard. With only 18 defenders, as recorded by James Parker, the fort fell within hours. The attackers burned cabins, leaving 5 dead and 7 wounded, according to survivor testimonies compiled by historian Joella Powell Exley. The settlers' fatal error was underestimating the Comanche's tactical skill. Mounted on swift Mustangs, the warriors executed a coordinated assault, exploiting the fort's weak eastern gate, as noted in military analyses by historian Thomas W. Kuetrer. The defenders, armed with slow-loading muskets, stood little chance against the Comanche's hit-and-run tactics, honed over decades of warfare. This miscalculation, rooted in settler arrogance, as Fehrenbach argues, led to the fort's collapse and the scattering of its people. In the chaos, 9-year-old Cynthia Ann, her blonde hair tangled and dress muddied, was seized by a Comanche warrior. 5 others, including her cousin Rachel, were also taken, as documented by James Parker's 1838 report. Dragged across the plains on horseback, Cynthia's world shifted from the fort's wooden walls to the open expanses of Comanche territory. The captives, bound with rawhide, faced a 200-mile journey, their fate uncertain. Historian Brian DeLay notes that such abductions were strategic, aimed at bolstering Comanche numbers through adoption. A Tenewish Comanche couple, wearing beaded moccasins and carrying woven baskets, adopted Cynthia, naming her Nadua, meaning someone found. This act, as anthropologist Thomas Cavanaugh explains, reflected the Comanche practice of integrating captives to strengthen kinship ties. By 1837, at age 10, Cynthia lived in a buffalo hide teepee, learning to tan hides and speak Comanche. Her adoptive parents, whose names are unrecorded, treated her as their own, a common practice noted in ethnographies of the period. Cynthia embraced Comanche life, mastering their language and customs by her teens. She wore fringed dresses, her hands skilled at crafting tools, as described by historian Paul H. Carlson. By 1845, at age 18, she was indistinguishable from her peers, her blue eyes a rare contrast to her adopted kin. Her transformation, as Hämäläinen argues, showcased the Comanche's cultural adaptability, absorbing outsiders to sustain their society. Cynthia's full integration challenged settler narratives of captivity as suffering, revealing a complex bond with her new people. Around 1845, Cynthia married Peta Nokona, a Comanche chief in his 32nd, known for his skill with a bow and leadership in raids. Their union, witnessed by 200 tribal members as estimated by oral histories, cemented her status. Peta, clad in a feathered headdress, stood by her side during ceremonies, as described by Quanah Parker's later accounts. Historian S.C. Gwynn notes that their marriage symbolized Cynthia's acceptance, her role shifting from captive to respected wife within the tribe. Peta Nokona, despite Comanche customs allowing polygamy, chose Cynthia as his sole wife, a rare devotion noted by historian Ernest Wallace. By 1850, they lived in a camp of 50 tipis, as recorded by trader Josiah Gregg, moving across the plains with the seasons. Their partnership, rooted in mutual respect, defied settler stereotypes of native marriages, as Carlson argues, highlighting the depth of Comanche social bond. Cynthia and Peta raised 3 children: Quanah, born around 1845, Pecos, born around 1852, and Topsana, born around 1858. Cynthia, now in her 22nd, tended to her children in a teepee adorned with painted hides, her hands busy sewing moccasins. Quanah, with his mother's fair features, learned to ride by age 5, as noted in his own memoirs. The family's life, centered on the Comanche's nomadic cycles, reflected a harmony that historian Gwynn calls a testament to their resilience. Quanah Parker, Cynthia's eldest, emerged as a leader by the 1870s, commanding 300 warriors, as documented in military reports. His resistance to U.S. expansion, as detailed by historian William T. Hagan, preserved Comanche culture during a time when 90% of their population faced disease or displacement by 1870, per census estimates. Quanah's legacy, tied to his mother's story, embodied the Comanche's fight for survival, a narrative of pride and loss. In December 1860, Texas Rangers, led by Lawrence Sullivan Ross, a 2-year-old captain in a broad-brimmed hat, raided a Comanche camp on the Pease River. The force of 40 Rangers, armed with Colt revolvers, killed 12 Comanche, as reported by Ross's official dispatch. Cynthia, now 33, was spotted shielding Topsana, her infant daughter, her buckskin dress torn in the fray. Captured with her child, she was identified by her blue eyes, a detail noted by Ranger Charles Goodnight. Returned to white society after 24 years, Cynthia faced a world she no longer knew. Housed with her uncle in Van Zant County, Texas, in 1861, she struggled to speak English, her vocabulary limited to 50 words, as recorded by her cousin. Her attempts to flee back to the Comanche, noted by historian Exley, revealed her deep bond with her adopted kin. Torn from her sons, Quanah and Pecos, she lived as a stranger, her story a poignant reflection of cultural dislocation, as Gwynn argues. Cynthia Ann Parker's life stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, caught between two worlds in a time of relentless conflict. Her journey from a settler's daughter to Nadua, a Comanche mother, reveals the profound adaptability of both individuals and the Comanche people, who faced the loss of 90% of their population by 1870, as census data confirms. Historians like S.C. Gwynn emphasize that her story challenges simplistic narratives of captivity, showing a woman who found belonging in a culture vastly different from her own. Her forced return to white society in 1860, after 24 years with the Comanche, exposed the cruelty of cultural dislocation. Unable to reconnect with her past, Cynthia's pain, as noted by Jo Ella Powell Exley, reflected the broader tragedy of native communities torn apart by expansion. The Comanche, once a nation of 20,000, were reduced to 1,500 by 1875, per U.S. Army records. Yet their spirit endured through figures like Quanah. Cynthia's life, intertwined with their struggle, underscores the depth of human connection across cultural divides. Her story raises a haunting question. When a person is claimed by two cultures, each with its own claims to her heart, which home truly defines who she is?